What's up, movie fans? Okay, so guys, today, part 2 to my review of every movie in the DC animated movie universe. Now, if you guys don't know what that is, which you should know, because if you're watching this, you should have watched my part 1, but whatever. So the DC animated movie universe is this shared universe made up of a bunch of direct-to-video animated DC movies, and many people say that it's better than the DCEU, and a few people say that it can rival the MCU. So that interested me to start reviewing all of these. So this is my part 2. In the last video, I reviewed the first 4 movies in this universe, and now I'm reviewing the next 4. Now, one thing that I did want to say before I started was that I made a mistake in my last video. I said that I thought that Justice League War took place before Flashpoint Paradox. Apparently that was wrong, and Flashpoint Paradox is the first movie in this universe for very confusing reasons. I don't even know. It's just really confusing. I don't feel like getting into it, so we're just gonna start the review. So today I am reviewing Batman vs. Robin, Batman Bad Blood, Justice League vs. Teen Titans, and Justice League Dark. Let's just get straight into it with Batman vs. Robin. Like always, I'm going to tell you everything I liked about it, everything I disliked, and then my final score for each of these. So, Batman vs. Robin, the plot of this movie is that Robin has a hard time adjusting to Batman's no-kill rule, since Robin was literally trained by a League of Assassins. He is tempted to join this one evil group that's planning on taking over Gotham called the Court of Owls, and he's tempted to join them and become one of their assassins. So, like, he has to choose between Batman or this evil court. So let's talk about everything I liked about it. And first off, this is a direct sequel to Son of Batman, and I think that this movie did right what Son of Batman did wrong. It actually executed the relationship between Batman and Robin really well. I feel like Son of Batman kind of rushed it, but here there's actually this, like, really believable conflict between them, where you have Robin who thinks that killing is right, and Batman trying to teach him that it's not. Yeah, I just think that it was really interesting and much more compelling than it was in Son of Batman in this movie. And their relationship honestly kind of got me emotional at some points. Like, this movie did a really good job with their relationship. One thing that's kind of essential to Batman's, like, entire character, I know it's kind of gotten annoying because, like, every Batman movie ever has done it, but exploring Batman's trauma, like his trauma with his parents when getting killed when he was young, like, that is essential to Batman's character. It's gotten a bit annoying because, like I said, every Batman movie ever has done it. It wasn't really something that had been explored in this universe yet, and I feel like this movie finally really explored Batman's backstory, and it made him a much more compelling character than he was in the first 4 movies in this universe. I also really like the villain of this movie. Talon is a great villain. I love how he's like, he kind of sees Robin as kind of like a younger version of him, and so he wants to mentor Robin, and I thought that that was a really interesting dynamic, and I really liked Talon. I think he might actually be my favorite villain in this universe thus far. I also really liked the Court of Owls in this movie. Like, the Court of Owls, I've heard about them before, but I've never actually seen them done in, like, anything before, because I don't normally read comics that much. So seeing them in this movie, it was an interesting concept, and I thought that this movie did it pretty well. I really liked the Court of Owls, just their entire concept. So that's everything I liked about this movie. Now, there are a couple things that I disliked, so let's get into them. First off, this is gonna be the weirdest complaint ever, and, like, I'm gonna have to explain it. I don't like how Robin doesn't kill anyone in this movie. Let me explain. Robin's entire character arc is trying to decide between Batman, who, like, is trying to teach him the right thing, or going with the Court of Owls, and Callan, who are teaching him that killing is right. I think that if he had actually killed someone in this movie, that would have made, like, that entire conflict way more believable, and it would have made it like, wow, he's actually turning evil. It would have made, like, the entire conflict better if he had actually, like, went full on towards the bad side. He doesn't kill anyone in this movie, so as a result, it's kind of hard to actually believe that he's, like, turning evil, and I thought that that was a problem that I had with this movie. Another thing is that we get this flashback to Batman when he was younger, and we see that after his parents died, he thought that the Court of Owls were responsible, but then he figured out the Court of Owls aren't real, so they can't be responsible. So then later in the movie, when he figures out that the Court of Owls really are real, they never really bring up what that means about Batman's backstory and what that means about his parents. Did the Court of Owls actually kill his parents? Because I think that could be a really interesting storyline. There's even a throwaway line in this movie where the Grand Master of the Court is talking about Bruce Wayne, and he says, "Let's hope he's not a problem like his father was." Did the Court of Owls actually kill Bruce Wayne's parents? I think that that would have been a really interesting storyline, but this movie really doesn't do anything with it. And then my final problem, Batman during the final battle, this is a minor nitpick, but Batman during the final battle just randomly gets this huge mech suit, like, out of nowhere, and I was like, where'd that come from? They could have at least teased it, it just fell out of nowhere. So that's everything that I didn't like about this movie. So overall, I really liked this movie. Batman vs. Robin is a really good movie, so much so that I honestly think it might be my favorite in this universe so far. It was really good. So I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. I only gave Flashpoint an 8 out of 10, so this movie's better than Flashpoint. Let's move on to the next movie, Batman Bad Blood. I don't have a lot to say about this movie, so let's just make this one quick. So the plot of this movie is that Batman dies. That happens in the first 5 minutes of this movie. Batman dies. Okay, so spoilers, he doesn't actually die. Like, obviously not. They're not gonna kill off Batman 6 movies into this universe. But you're supposed to think that he's dead for the majority of the movie. In Batman's absence, crime in Gotham City starts getting higher than it normally is, which is saying a lot for Gotham City. So Nightwing has to step up and take on the mantle of Batman temporarily so that he can stop all of this crime in the city. So let's get into the positives. First off, Nightwing is the main character of this movie. I like that because in Batman vs. Robin and in Son of Batman, Nightwing kind of just felt like an afterthought. He was just kind of there. But here, he's actually, like, this really compelling character. I really like how you learn more about how he really didn't like being Robin and being, like, Batman's adopted son. And I really think that that was interesting, and I like Nightwing in this movie. I also really liked Batwoman. I think that she was an interesting character. They gave her a really interesting backstory too, and I liked her. I also think that the action in this movie was, I don't even know what it was about it, but I think it was more standout than the action in other movies in this universe. I really liked the action in this movie. So that's everything I liked. Like I said, I don't have a lot to say about this one. Let's move on to the dislike things. First off, I don't like how Damian feels like an afterthought in this movie. Like, he's literally the main focus of the past 2 movies in this trilogy, kind of. And yet, he's not given, like, any focus here. I didn't really like that. My second negative is that at a certain point in this movie, the plot just gets way too convoluted. And then my final problem with this movie is that Talia al Ghul, she's not a terrible villain, but she's not really that good either. I don't think they did enough to make her an interesting villain. And so she ended up coming on the negative half of Batman Bad Blood. So that's basically it. Like I said, I don't have a lot to say about this one. It's fine. I'd say it's like as good as Son of Batman, possibly even a bit better. I didn't care for it that much. I'm just gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It's fine. So now moving on to Justice League versus Teen Titans. It's the next movie in this universe. So the plot of this movie, I find it funny how basically every movie we're talking about in today's video, except for the next one, is kind of focused on Batman and Damian. Like, I find that funny. So in this movie, Justice League vs. Teen Titans, Batman realizes that Damian needs to learn how to work as a team. He, forces Damian to join the Teen Titans, which is this team of young superheroes, to learn how to work as a team. The positives about this movie is that I know that Damian's in other movies in this franchise. I've already seen Teen Titans The Judas Contract, and he's in that movie, but I feel like this, if this was the last movie he was in, would have been like a great final step in his character arc, because he's kind of learned that like his previous way of life and what Ra's al Ghul taught him was wrong in the previous movies. But one thing that he's always kind of had throughout all of these movies is that for some reason he still thinks that Ra's al Ghul was a good person. In this movie, I think he finally like kind of learns, hey, maybe this guy who taught me all this stuff that I'm now learning is wrong. Maybe he wasn't such a great guy. Like, it seems like common sense, but I think it's really interesting how he kind of learned that in this movie. I also really liked the new Teen Titans characters. I like Raven. I think she was my favorite because, like, they give her an interesting backstory, and she kind of drives the plot of the whole movie with her relationship with Trigon and everything. I also really liked the other three. They weren't as standout as Robin and Raven were, but Beast Boy, Blue Beetle, and Starfire were all fine. I also really like how this movie, Superman and Wonder Woman haven't really been developed that much until this movie, where I think they had their, like, romantic relationship and, like, how they're dating, and I think that was made them a bit more interesting. So now let's move on to some of the negatives about this movie. First off, the title. Justice League vs. Teen Titans is straight up clickbait. They only fight once in this whole movie, and it's because the Justice League are possessed. What the heck? This is a nitpick, but the Legion of Doom was extremely disappointing. They kind of teased the Legion of Doom in the post-credit scene of Throne of Atlantis, Justice League Throne of Atlantis. You had... I thought that in the post-credit scene of that movie, Lex Luthor was recruiting Orm to the Legion of Doom, but not only was Orm not even on the Legion of Doom in this movie, but the Legion of Doom wasn't even that important. They were just throwaway villains to open the movie on, and I thought that was dumb. Like, come on, it's the Legion of Doom. Why would you waste them like this? Then my other two problems with this movie, and those two that I said so far are just kind of nitpicks, but these next two are actual big problems I had with this movie. First off, Trigon really isn't a great villain. Like, he was just kind of generic evil bad guy. My other problem is that it seems like the entire plot with Trigon didn't really start until like halfway through the movie. I mean, it kind of started at the beginning with Weather Wizard getting possessed, but it really didn't come into like full swing until halfway through the movie. and I thought that that was a bit weird, but overall, I liked this movie. It's kind of on the same level as Batman Bad Blood. I didn't love it. It wasn't great, but it was fine. So I'm gonna give it another 6 out of 10. So now, the final movie that we're talking about today is Justice League Dark. And this movie is rated R. So yeah, that's crazy. I think the reason it's rated R is because this movie has a really intense plot. The plot of this movie, it's so dark, like it lives up to this movie's name. There are a bunch of people in the city who start seeing these weird hallucinations where they look at everyday normal people and they see these, like, demonic, weird, frightening creatures, and they're like, holy crap, it's a monster, I need to kill it. So they literally start killing everyday normal people because of these hallucinations. And so there's like this huge increase of serial killings in the city because these people are having these weird hallucinations. So the Justice League is like, okay, what the heck is going on here? So Batman goes up to John Constantine, who I'm just gonna call him a magic detective. That's basically what he is. And so the two of them team up with a bunch of other supernatural superheroes to try and figure out what exactly is going on. So yeah, this movie is really dark. It was kind of crazy. So now, let's get into the stuff I liked about it. First off, I kind of feel like every movie up until this point has kind of been like the same thing. I don't know, it hasn't really... None of the movies have really done anything like that groundbreaking or new, besides maybe Flashpoint. But this movie is actually introduced a whole lot of new risky concepts. It made it really, really interesting, and really unique. It was just really refreshing to have all of these new cool concepts. Then another thing that I liked about it is all the new characters that were introduced. Constantine was fun. I liked Deadman. Zatanna was cool. Etrigan was cool. I liked all these new characters. Another good thing that I liked was that, in spite the fact it had a really dark tone, it also was really funny. Like, this movie is hilarious. I loved a lot of the jokes in this movie. I especially liked the part where Constantine and Zatanna just randomly started talking about something that happened with monkeys, and it was just like, well, now I want to see what happened there. Yeah, I really liked a lot of the new stuff that this movie introduced. So moving on to the negatives. First off, I don't think Batman even had to be in this movie. He really didn't serve that much purpose to the plot. Second off, the main villain of this movie, Destiny, was just kind of another generic evil bad guy. Sometimes in this movie, the animation would, like, drop in quality for a few frames. Like, for the most part in these movies, the animation is pretty good. But in this movie, there were some times where the animation went from really good to suddenly, like, really weird. That kind of, like, took me out of it, and that happened a couple times in this movie. And then my final criticism, this is a really small nitpick, but when the Justice League is talking at the beginning of the movie and the entire Justice League is gathered there, Martian Manhunter and Hawkman are just randomly there. Where did they come from? We're not gonna get any backstory at all? Like, why are they here? That was just weird to me. I wish they would have, like, actually introduced them and had, like, how they joined the team, but they were just kind of there. Overall, I liked Justice League Dark. It was a good movie. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I liked this movie. It was really new and refreshing in this universe. That's my review of the next 4 movies in the DC animated movie universe. I actually watched, like, ahead of this a lot. At the time I'm recording this, I've seen 13 of these movies. I watched ahead because, like, I'm just really invested in it, so yeah, overall, I really like the DC animated movie universe so far, and I do think it's better than the DCEU so far. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and see ya, movie fans.